Hi, everyone, and welcome to Dear Katie, the podcast that amplifies courageous voices and real stories of resilience, healing, and hope after trauma. Katie Koestner was the first woman to speak out publicly as a survivor of date rape. In the early 1990s, she appeared on the cover of Time magazine, sparking a nationwide conversation about the realities of sexual violence. She is the founder of the Take Back the Night Foundation and the host of the Dear Katie podcast. Inspired by the many letters Katie has received over the last 20 years, each week, Katie interviews survivors, healers, and experts to honor their stories and explore the many paths to healing and hope. Before we begin, please know, many episodes of Dear Katie cover sensitive topics related to sexual violence, trauma, and recovery. Listen with care and take the space that you need to take care of yourself. Your well-being is what matters most. Now, let's join Katie and today's guest for a conversation that matters.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Dear Katie podcast. My name is Katie Koestner, your host, and I am just delighted to continue on with all of our listeners in this journey toward healing and thrivership and just really taking each and every episode, every single guest, so valuable with all of their own personal trials, tribulations, and success stories. So you are all going to love today's guest. Jean Payne is incredible, and I'm just going to read a little bit about her. Always remember self-care, push pause, take a break, take a walk, whatever you need to do at any moment. This podcast will be right here when you come back. So Jean is a survivor of sexual abuse who decided to build a life on her own terms when she stopped outsourcing her worth to those around her. Today, when she looks in the mirror, she no longer judges, she praises. She chooses to surround herself with cheerleaders and protectors. I love that, Jean. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. So tell us, I always like to say, give us the history, whatever you want to share about your childhood, where you grew up. I think I read a little bit about, so it's a really cool story.
Yes. So I was born in the U.S. and I was raised in Colombia, South America. And I like to tell people that I grew up riding donkeys to school and being attacked by roosters at the farm. I literally grew up in a farm with my family. My mom is used to be a homemaker, and my dad is still a farmer in Colombia. So I was raised there, and I actually. It's funny because I was being born in the U.S. People are always flabbergasted with, "Oh my God, where did you get that accent? Why do you talk the way they do?" I'm like, because I was raised in Colombia, and I came back when I was 16 years old. Went to 3 different high schools. And I ended up joining the military when right at high school for literally for money for college. My entire family still lives in Colombia, and so I am here in the U.S. and I'm a business owner, and I'm a military sexual trauma survivor.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is so cool. I like the story. I can see you riding the donkey and chasing the roosters. So where does the journey begin with regard to, what brings you to this microphone in terms of your survivorship and what happened?
So I was actually sexually abused from the time I was 5 years old. I was sexually abused, and that lasted from the time I was 5 years old until until I was 15. The neighbor, the doctor, the respected family member. So it was definitely a very abusive childhood that I have from just sexual abuse to mental abuse by my father. And then when I moved to the U.S. and
wait. Let's back up on a second. That was a lot. It's so different people. No, it's so exciting. I mean, to just, I'm already sensing where you've come to in life, but I wanted just to back up so I'm more clear and our listeners are too. So when you're 5 years old and that's when you're living in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the neighbor, the doctor, a family member, a trusted somebody. You went really fast, so I lost track. Yeah. Is that separate people?
The trusted uncle. People?
Oh, there's an uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Is it one person? And he's a doctor, or Is it
Oh,
a neighbor who's a doctor and a dad? Like, I'm confused on that part.
So I was sexually abused by different men throughout my
Oh,
childhood.
okay.
You know, the close neighbor and the family doctor, the respected family member. So they were different. The neighbor, different forms of abuse across my childhood. Sexual
Okay. So
abuse.
several different people.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That must have been, I guess, can you remember back to what did you think it was normal? Can you remember when you were that young, like what you were thinking about what was happening?
You know, I didn't really know what has transpired until later on in life. And growing up I'm from Colombia, South America, in a Latino culture,
Mhm.
you don't talk about things. You don't talk about the secrets. You don't tell your parents. And if you do, often you're asked, well, what did you do to cause that? Or don't say anything to anybody because we don't want to ruin the reputation of our family. So I never had the relationship with my family to be able to have those kind of discussions. But at the same time, it was just a culture that you don't really understand what's going on until you grow up and you realize it's like, wow, what happened to me? That was not right. There was something going on there,
Right.
and I didn't do anything to deserve it. You know.
I understand. So was it more like, I guess, was there any specific moment that you remember kind of coming to terms with, yes, this is what happened and it was wrong? Like, or
Mm.
was it kind of a slow absorption? Like, sometimes you'll read a book or you'll see something on television or, you'll have someone say something to you and that is the catalyst for that eye opening and like, or sometimes it's just like it piles up and all of a sudden you feel, an understanding of what your childhood was. What would you say your experience is more like one or the other or both?
So that was the beginning of. Um, I didn't really realize the magnitude of the abuse that I had experienced until back in 2022. So what I'm describing as my childhood, that was nothing compared to joining the military. I joined the military right after high school, and money for college and English as a second language, and I was enlisted. And for over 4.5 years that I was in the military, I was the recipient of 20 plus unwelcome, sexual encounters with people in position of power. I was given alcohol. I was sexually abused. I was not protected by the system. And so that happened over a period of 4.5 years. Um, After I left the military, I literally, I suffered in silence for a very, very long time, from 1996 until 20 years later. I didn't disclose anything to anybody. I was fighting my own battle privately with anxiety, depression, suicide ideation. So not until what I call reclaim my worth, which happened in December 2022. That's kind of when I started realizing what the magnitude of my life experience have been, because
Mhm.
Katie, I spent my entire life and I didn't really realize what had happened to me during my childhood. But really, what stuck with me, what really impacted me the most tremendously, was my time in the military. Primarily,
Oh,
primarily because being in the Navy, being sexually abused 20 plus times in a period of 4.5 years, and I was 18 years old. By the time I got out, I was 22, and being betrayed by the system, being given alcohol by superiors, ended up in hospitals, waking up with bruises on my legs, inner thighs, and arms, and not being protected by the system. I never really realized any of that stuff until it truly caught up with me later on in life. So it was really a true evolution, coming to terms what had really happened to me, and coming to terms with the fact that I didn't do anything to deserve what happened to me. And I think a lot of victims go through that, where they go through sexual abuse, and they're made to feel that it's your fault. So I know that it's a long-winded answer, but it has been an evolution.
And just to make sure I understand, the military was the Colombia military or the United States?
The United States military, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And when did you start? How old were you when you went into the military?
I was 18.
18? Oh my gosh, you started so young.
Yes.
And then how long did you stay in for?
I stayed in 4.5 years.
Okay. Hi, this is Katie Koestner, and I wanted to remind all of our listeners about the free National Sexual Assault Legal Hotline. We at Take Back the Night have assembled an incredible team of attorneys, trauma-informed, who truly believe survivors and want to support their journeys in healing and finding justice. The Get Justice Hotline is 567-SHATTER, or feel free to fill out a form on the Take Back the Night website, share your story, let the attorneys know what's going on, and they will get back to you as soon as possible with all of your legal options. That is a service we are delighted to provide through Take Back the Night. And then I guess, is there still a jump to 2022? Because in 2022, you would have been around, 40-some, 49 or 48?
Yes.
Around there. And so after the military, what did you do after that?
I had a very successful career. I spent a lot of time in the corporate world. I was in the energy industry. I was doing a lot of work in the human capital environment. And in 2014, I decided to take a leap of faith and start my own company. But you know what's really interesting is that I did such a great job being an imposter. Like, everybody thought, because I was hiding my pain, my anxiety, my suicidal ideation, my depression, everybody thought that I had a perfect life. I had the thriving job, making the six figures. It seemed like I've had it all together, and nobody knew. And I think a lot of people who go through trauma, they fight the battle privately. And that's what I was doing. I was doing that until it caught up to me, where I had a decision point of either I'm going to live or I am going to die. And one of the things that I like to talk about is that I was outsourcing my worth to people around me. One of my biggest challenges as I navigated my journey is that I was going to psychiatrist, I was going to therapist, but I was not doing my work. I was allowing other people to tell me what to do, but then when I left the sessions, I would not do my part. So I was not getting better. It was kind of like I was going through the motions, right? It's like, yeah, you know what? Let me go to my psychiatrist. Let me go to my therapist. But I was not doing my
do you think they could tell? Yeah, that's so interesting that you say it that way. Do you think that the therapists were fooled as well? Like, you had pulled the wool over everyone's eyes?
Oh, yeah.
And the
yes.
Oh gosh,
yes.
Smart woman.
Doing such a great job fooling everybody, and then just going through the emotions that, I don't. I'm having all these issues. I finally came clean, and I say clean, to my husband, because he didn't know what I was navigating for the almost 20 years after the military. He did not know. He did not know that I had been sexually abused. He didn't understand what I had been through, and so he thought that I was just getting sick because I was stressed out. But I even fooled him, because I was going to my counseling sessions. I was going to my therapy, and I was seeing my psychiatrist, but I was still not doing my part, and I kept blaming everybody else for me not getting better. And so instead of getting better, I was even going downhill, because I was feeling like a failure. And that's where in December of 2022, that was kind of when I came to terms with either I'm going to live or I'm going to commit suicide. Because
Oh gosh, Ian.
I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep up the this facade of I'm getting better when in reality I wasn't. So
Can I ask, when you told your husband, like, how long had you been together?
we have been together almost 30 years.
Oh, wow. And you hadn't told him?
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible. What a lot to bear, Jean. That sounds like overwhelming,
It was.
to keep that.
It was.
It must have been. And do you remember the moment you told him for the first time?
So when him and I were in the military, he we were actually in the same unit. We didn't start dating until after I got out of the military. So it was very difficult for me to tell him that people who he knew had a sexual assault. And so when I finally disclosed to him what I had been through, he was very upset because it's people that he knew and respected. And he didn't really understand, from being a sexual trauma survivor, one of the things is that you don't have trust on anybody. You don't want to be physically intimate with anybody. And you're very distant, and it's very hard to show affection. So, he never asked any questions. He never asked us to why I was distant, why I was just had this attitude of pushing people away. I couldn't trust anybody. So when I finally decided to tell him, he's very upset, but he wanted to provide the best support that he could. But I think at some point you realize that you have to get help. You have to do your part. He can't help me. It was very challenging, especially when.
Can you remember how he reacted?
How did he react?
Yeah.
He's upset. He felt helpless. He felt, as a husband, he felt very helpless. Like, what can he do? Because he couldn't do anything. Right. At the end of the day, I had to do my part of want to get better, and I needed to get control over my over my well-being. And that's what I talk about often, is reclaiming your worth. Stop outsourcing your well-being to other people around you, because at the end of the day, I have to take responsibility, and because that's the only way how I was going to get better. And for me, often the way how he could support me is when I would fall apart and come to him and say, I need a hug.
Right.
And same thing with I have a 14-year-old who has seen mommy go through a lot of this. And he has come to kind of understand what I have been through. But going back to December 2022 is that 2022 is that I realized at what point is that I couldn't rely on people to fix me. I couldn't. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's a big. What happened that day? I mean, how did you come to that understanding?
I think I really realized that it was time for me to do something. It was because my anxiety and suicidal ideation of just feeling that I was not worth it, and that I was not worthy of anything, and that I had caused everything, that it was my fault. And I think coming after, in December 2022, when I decided that it was either I was going to live or die, that moment, and there was a moment that I realized, it's like, you know what, I have so much to live for. But if I'm going to do that, I need to take my well-being seriously. And that's when I decided to really take serious my psychiatrist, my counselor, my psychologist. I remember going to those sessions and she would be like, well, Jean, after this session, you need to try this. You need to understand your emotions, stop shoving them under the rug. You got to use these tools. And there was the aha moment when I said, you know what? I have to give this a try. Because if I don't, really bad things are going to happen. And that's the moment I decided to, one is to listen to my psychiatrist, to listen to my psychologist, to stop being ashamed of getting help. Because the thing with trauma is we feel that if we take medicine or if we see a psychiatrist or if we see a psychologist, that somehow we're just crazy, And that's the farther thing from the truth. And for me, it was realizing that I don't give a crap what people think. I realized that, what? I don't care what people think. I'm going to share my story. I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to tell people what I have been through because that has been therapy for me. I decided to surround myself with cheerleaders and protectors. That's what I talk about in my book is that.
I love that. So who are these people that you finally let in?
So I decided to clean up my circle. Instead of having tons of people around me, I decided to, one is my protectors or the people that closest to me. That's my husband. Those are my confidence, that people who I can truly trust. My cheerleaders are those people who are always rooting for me, who are going to defend me when I'm not in the room. The people who are going to, when I go to my yoga classes, when I go to my Pilates classes, that kind of community that you need to heal, those are my cheerleaders. And then I just limited that group to very few people. I realized that, what? I only need 2 protectors. Maybe I only just need 5 cheerleaders. Everybody else are acquaintances. And that has been very helpful for me because I have been able to be vulnerable.
How did you pick out who you thought? I mean, I love the precision, Jean. It's like you all of a sudden took everything and decided you are the boss.
Yeah.
But what qualities were you looking for in those particular people?
Like
let's start with the protectors. What does that mean?
So my protectors, I look at those as I know my husband is always going to be my protector. I have, even with family members, I have one of my brothers. He's like my twin, and I have just like I said, just very few people who I know they're going to protect me. Those are the people that I can say, if some days I'm having a really bad day and I don't feel safe with myself, that I can go over there and say, you know what, today I don't want to be alone. I need you. The same thing with my cheerleaders. I have a few people that I know that when I'm having a bad day or I'm having a great day, I can just pick up the phone and call them and just talk to them and know that they have my back, right? Because I have come to realize, and this is part of what I talk in the book, is sometimes people will be happy for you when they're happier than you. And sometimes when you may be sharing something with them, but privately they're celebrating your setbacks. So my cheerleaders have been those people that I know that they're happy for me always. And not just happy for me when they're happier than me.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, that's such a beautiful, powerful statement, Jean, because it also makes me think about power and control.
Yes.
And, back to, what rape and abuse really is abuse of power and control. And yet, even if we think about it on a non-sexual level, it's the emotional engagement or detraction, usurping our power and control through kind of, the leeches in the world.
Yes.
So, they're so insecure in their own self that they can't be just really happy when someone else is smarter or better. Hey everybody, it's Katie Koestner. Just a quick interruption. We want you to know that there is an entire shop full of cool merch on the Take Back the Night website to support your own healing journey, that of someone you care about. There are t-shirts, there's bracelets, there's glow-in-the-dark stuff. There's all kinds of unique special edition from our artist series as well. So please take a look if it's a holiday or a special occasion or just a gift to yourself. Support Take Back the Night through your purchase. I like thinking a lot about, what has helped me too. And you made me think about, I don't think I was quite as brilliant and smart about doing it the way you did with I need to only trust these people. But I do look for those qualities that you mentioned that you talk about in the book and try to make sure that you don't let the bad ones in, if they're negative or drowning themselves.
Yes.
Not gonna, you know what I mean? We don't have to bail. It's like you did the work, and so should everybody else do the work, right? Do your own work.
Exactly.
and you said it really well. I think you said no one else is going to solve this but me. And then you got serious and really focused and brilliant about it. So I love how you did that. We haven't talked about this on the podcast. It's how do you surround yourself? Because we talk about our counselor, but our counselor's still a paid person. Right. It's not our friend. You can't just call them when you want to either. They're going to pick up when they're paid to pick up. Mm-hmm. And I think that while counseling is important, I really like your system a lot. And I think also the idea of protectors, Jean, I don't know if you want to respond to this. I think it could come off as we still need these men, as you mentioned, your husband is one, but, you could say my partner and, it could be anybody but I think it's important to think about a protector is still an equal.
Yes.
Right? You know what I mean? There's still not, it's not like the chauvinistic thing. It should be, because I was sitting on a plane going to give a speech, Jean, and the man sitting next to me was very protectionistic of his wife and daughters. And the way he described, because I told him what I do, and he immediately turned to me and he's like, well, my daughters are well protected by me. And I was like, oh. It was cringy. Mm-hmm. It was just, it made me feel he didn't want to give his daughters their own empowerment and kind of wanted to raise them to continue in this lane of you need a man to protect you. So I don't know. Yeah. I think that word is really important because it's so tied to religious beliefs and historic stuff.
Yes.
You've redefined it a bit, though. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on how you chose that word and, all the meanings that you've attached to it now.
Yeah, and I think protector comes it comes in many different ways, right? I'm a woman of faith, so God is my protector. So He has been essential for me to get through this journey. I think sometimes when I talk about protectors, for me, has been very hard to build relationships and have trust. And for me, the protector piece, which, it can be male, female, partner, whoever you trust. I think that trust piece where I can be vulnerable. And because have you ever been in a situation when you ask, somebody asks you, how are you? But do they really want to know, or they're just going through the motions, right? Mm-hmm. And with my protectors is I know that I can trust them. I know that I can cry. I have good days. I have bad days, and they don't get tired of me saying, "I need a hug." Right? I can be vulnerable. I can be transparent, and I don't have to put on a facade. So for me, that person, because my husband has seen the trials and tribulations that I have been through as a human being, as a woman, as a mom, and all the health issues that I have had as a result, as my trauma, that's one of the people that I can trust the most, because he will not judge me. And I know that, that he has seen my sufferings. And I do have another protector, a best friend that I have, and I have known her for many years, but I always know that she has my back. So I always have two protectors, and then my cheerleaders, which are the 4 or 5. And it feels darn good because you know who you can trust. You know who's going to be there for you always. And as you are recovering for trauma, that is essential because every day is a zigzag,
Right. Yeah. So I think a zigzag's interesting because I usually think of it as like an up and a down, like an elevator roller coaster.
It does.
But I like zigzag.
It is a roller coaster every day, And one of the things that I have learned is, and that's what I always talk about, when you look in the mirror, do you praise or do you judge? And when I wake up every day, I have come to realize is that I have to meet myself where I'm at and not where people want me to be. And that has been critical to my recovery, but also understanding my emotions and being okay with my emotions and not being ashamed of my emotions and not running away from them.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think sometimes, there's so many stereotypes about women and, Latino women and like who's in charge. And I think you've really achieved it. So I guess where I'd like to go with it is what kind of healing do you think having this new kind of system in place has really happened for you? I mean, you had multiple perpetrators and awful power in the military, and you kind of said that feels even worse, that abuse, than the childhood ones. Why do you think that is? That I don't know, how do you differentiate, or what? When you mentioned that, I was curious. I didn't bring it up back then. Yeah. What do you think was more important?
I think because I grew up in such my father was very abusive, mentally abusive. My father used to tie me and my sibling to dogs. Okay.
Oh my God.
And he would throw a bone just to see the dog run and drag us. And I grew up in such a mentally abusive environment that when I was sexually abused, I almost felt like that's just kind of like piled up into a childhood, And so when I joined the military, and even as I left the military, because I did suffer in silence for a very long time, I don't think I realized the magnitude of my life trauma, especially the military, until you start hearing about it. You start like the Me Too movement, right? And you start reading more about sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and what women and men are encountering. And that's when you realize it's like, what in the world just happened? Because this whole entire time I'm thinking, when I spoke up in the military about what happened to me and I denounced the situation, I was ostracized.
Wow.
My chain of command, instead of protecting me, they're actually, when I ended up in the hospital, because people in position of authority gave me alcohol, I was sent to an alcohol abuse program. Nobody ever bothered to ask me, hey, you ended up in the hospital and you ended up waking up with these bruises and all the stuff in your arms and your inner thighs. What happened? I was treated like the criminal. Just the same thing, being in an office and somebody just waiting until the superiors are gone and exposing themselves. And I denounced them and I said, this is what happened. And then they treated me like the criminal, like I had been the one who caused all the stuff. So when you start going through all that trauma, right, and you're like, well, I caused it. Well, I did something. And I tell my father about my sexual abuse in the military. And the first thing that he says to me was, well, what did you do to deserve that?
Oh, wow.
And so I think it has just been I don't think the childhood, I didn't really knew what had happened to me until like I went through the military. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been through so much trauma and all this stuff, and and anxiety, depression, suicide, ideation, all the stuff that I'm going through, and then that's just when I realized the magnitude of everything that I've been through.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Gina, it just sounds overwhelming. I'm curious what. If I go back to like even your dad's reaction and what he did to you, how was your mom growing up? Oblivious? Also being abused? Your mom?
My father was very abusive, mentally abusive to my mother.
Okay.
It was a very unhealthy childhood, and she grew up with the mentality that that things happen for a reason, and the times that I confided things on her, when she would get upset, she would throw them back on my face. You know what I mean? Like, well, you caused that, and you slut, and blah. It was very unhealthy.
Oh,
It was very, very
my
unhealthy, and she fed on my father, and then her role was to be a submissive wife.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no support whatsoever growing up, or an ally in the household, right? To say, well, I can count on my mom to protect me. I can count. She was surviving as well from the abuse from my father.
Oh, I can only imagine. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for continuing to take the journey on the Dear Survivor podcast. A quick note, we are 100% volunteer at the podcast and at Take Back the Night. Your donations, your generosity helps us do what we do on such a shoestring budget. And we would be so grateful if this show is helping you through your journey and you are passing it along to others you care about. Please visit the Take Back the Night website and donate and support our cause and our mission to end sexual violence and support survivors. Thank you. Do you ever, a theme we talk about sometimes is forgiveness, or, and I feel like that word's overused with regard to victimization. But how do you let it land in your heart, with all these different men who've done these things to you? I'm curious about that. Like, how do you sit with it, or do you just chalk it up as it's a past thing? Like, I think wrestling with those demons is really hard. And I'm curious, like, how you set them all aside. I feel it almost like when I listen to you, Jean, I kind of feel like you might have put them all in a box and locked it and threw it in the bottom of the ocean. I don't know if that was what you did, but you kind of give that strength that you were ready to just put it all at the bottom of the ocean.
Yes, I did that. I did that from 1996 until 2016. I did that, and I did a really good job because sometimes when you're growing up and you're crying or you're upset, from my culture they're like, well, you stop being so upset, stop crying, you don't have enough to do, go and get yourself busy. And I did a really good job just packing that in a way that I would not deal with it, because the way how I was dealing with my emotions when I thought about what had happened to me, it was that like, well, I'm really upset. Well, let me just get busy and do something else. Let me just try something else. And one of the things that I have learned with my therapist is that you got to face those emotions. So if I wake up today and I'm not feeling good, I'm feeling down, or there's a trigger, I have learned that instead of me saying, well, let's just clear my mind, let me just go to the gym, let me just do something else, just run away. What I'm able to do now is to really dive in and peel those emotions to say, well, exactly what is that causing me to feel this way? Why is this happening? Why do I want to cry? Why am I feeling so uneasy? So it's been able to deal with my emotions, that has been really critical to my I guess my healing. And don't get me wrong, I'm still healing every day, Katie. I'm a work in progress.
No, I think we all are too, but I feel, I guess things I'm thinking about in listening to you, Jean, is one thing I did, I think we both did. I had a lot of not great stuff too. Not nearly as bad as yours, but a lot of people just think the only thing that Katie Hessler happened was like one time her freshman year of college, which was not, but everything else kind of, I think you were a superwoman and you stayed busy and stayed focused so you didn't have to let the trauma creep in too much, and you held it up as long as you could. And I guess I'm curious, when you have one child?
Yes, one.
Yeah, and is it a boy?
A boy, yes.
Yeah, I have twin boys myself, and I was, when it was a lot when, you said age 5, I think. And I'm curious, like, was it any different? It was not different for me, but when my boys turned different ages, I remembered things that had happened to me. When your son was 5, do you feel like it was harder and more of that feeling of trauma was more present because you could see this young person who was once upon a time, you were a young person, and you almost relive as your child gets older, I think, those experiences. But I don't know. That's what I did. I don't know if that's what you because that can compound a lot, is the childhood back when we have our own kids. For us, that's my thinking. But maybe it didn't happen for you. What do you think?
Well, so my son, we adopted him when he was 4 months old.
Okay.
And my biggest priority, Katie, with my son is that I was not going to repeat what has been given to me as far as mental abuse. And I have been very, very intentional, and my husband and I have with protecting him, but not overprotecting him, especially with his surroundings and who we trust and who you can trust. But my biggest priority in life has been not to repeat the same cycle that I endured when I was growing up. So that has been the biggest one. I think the trauma, probably up until December 2022, it has always been a cloud over everything because he has seen everything that mommy has been through. Especially I don't know if you're familiar with this, but fibromyalgia. People who go through trauma, especially military sexual trauma, they develop fibromyalgia. So I developed that. So he has seen mommy, not being able to get out of bed, not being able to go up the stairs, just being just in a very bad place. So he has seen the ups and downs of my mental health, and then he's very protective of mommy. I will tell you. So just really quick, we were flying one time, and him and I were. I was supposed to sit on one side of the aisle on the plane, and he was on the other side. And then he says to me, he goes, "Mommy, I'm going to wait to see who's going to be sitting next to you, because if it's a man that's sitting next to you, we're going to change seats so you can sit next to daddy, because my job is to protect you." He's only 14. He's only 14 years old, Katie. So he has seen, you know what I mean? He has seen everything that I've been through, and he has seen my trauma. So he's already internalizing that to protect me. So when I think about everything that I've been through, I feel liberated, because now I have dealt with my demons, and I'm still navigating the mental health healing, but I'm able to be more transparent with my emotions, and I can actually talk to him, and daddy will talk to him. And when mommy's feeling down, and my husband's very transparent, it's like, mommy's just going through a lot, or she wrote the book and this is why. This is her experience, and this is everything that she has been through. So I've been very transparent with him, and I think that has helped his development, and has also helped him kind of appreciate and respect women more, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic, Jean. Well, I guess the last part, let's just give the listeners a little preview of the book. You alluded to it. Tell us more what they can expect, and maybe we'll get some takers.
So the book is called Reclaim Your Worth. I wrote 50,000 words in 4 weeks. So,
wow.
Katie, so when I decided to write that book, that was early in 2024. I think I was ready to heal. So I hunkered down for 4 weeks. I wrote 30,000 words in 1 week. Okay. And then the rest, I wrote the other 20,000 I wrote in the next 3 weeks. And so that is definitely a book where I pour my entire just soul in it. What it does, it gives people kind of like, it starts with the current state. It talks about where I have been, but at the same time, it kind of tells people that the reader that ultimately you are in charge of your destiny. And then in order for us to heal, we have to be ready, and that we cannot outsource that to people because we're always going to be disappointed. People can go to Amazon.com to buy the book, but also you can go to my website, which is reclaimyourworthnow.com.
Okay, that is fantastic, Jean. Well, I am just delighted to hear all of the good work and important and successful work. I also appreciate your vulnerability in saying, not every day is going to be a great day. And now you have this awesome support system built in around you so that even if it's a tough day, I do have one last question, Jean. That cool network, do you feel like it's reciprocal? Like they are comfortable calling you at any time and leaning in when they need support?
Yes.
Okay. So it works both
Yes.
ways.
And you know why I think this whole journey had been just magical is because my journey pushed my husband to deal with his own mental health issues. We also found out that he was sexually abused as a man in the military. And so my journey is allowing other people to face their emotions. And like I said, even with my cheerleaders and protectors, it's the same thing too, where they feel now, since I'm so vulnerable with my emotions, they feel that they can do the same with theirs.
Yeah, that is just brilliant and so positive. And wow, I think, you left it till the end about your husband, but I'm glad you snuck that in there because that's even more powerful. And then you two can bond in that way as well. I think it's just gorgeous. So, and your son's story, I won't forget the plane because I could see mine, definitely doing something similar. They heard me speak, Jean, when I think they were only 6 years old the first time they heard mom speak at the Air Force Academy, ironically at the military. It was at the United States Air Force Academy in front of 5,000 people.
Wow.
And I dragged them out there. Yeah. I was like, and my husband did not come. But he's like, really? You're going to expose our kids? I'm like, yep.
But it's good, right? It's good for them to hear the story.
It's really good. And I'm so, I think it is really good. And I think, you led such a brilliant and bold life. And now look at you conquering trauma too.
Thank you.
It's like you conquered all the corporate stuff. You got through all the military crap.
Yes.
And now look at how amazing you are. So I hope, I hope our listeners will just enjoy you as much as I have. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me the space to share my story.
Oh, I love it. I think it's so important and so wonderful. And I'm so excited to learn more about the book and tell our listeners. So, here we are again, the end of another episode. And again, I feel like there's so much we could write down in our journals. And I don't know if any of us will be able to write so many thousands of words in a week. But
when you're ready to heal, Katie, you're ready to heal.
Yeah, you're ready to dump it all out. So it's such a joy. And thank you, Jean. And to our listeners, continue to tune in, listen in, journal with us. And together we thrive and survive. Take care. Thank you again, everybody, for joining another episode of the Dear Katie podcast. I hope very much you found today's episode helpful, empowering, and a way to take another step in that long journey toward healing and supporting those we care about, learning about sexual violence prevention, and also survivor support. For those of you who don't know, again, the Take Back the Night website has tons of great resources, books, self-care options, cool merch. If you're feeling like you need a wearable, we have great t-shirts. Of course, we would love it if you follow along on our free newsletter with news and events going on around the country and even around the globe. And finally, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You'll find our entire community popping up here and there, and recaps of our podcast episodes as well. So together we shatter the silence, and together we end the violence. Take care.